Welcome to Passion and Purpose with Pamela, celebrating all things woman. I'm Dr. Pamela Hardy-Shepherd, here to ignite inspiration through conversations that spotlight women's power and their journeys. Let's share our light, our stories, and create a space of celebration for every woman. Here's to embracing our womanhood together. Welcome back to Passion and Purpose with Pamela, the podcast where we shine a light on extraordinary stories of resilience, leadership, and a purpose-driven living. Today, I am honored to introduce a woman who embodies strength, dedication, and service, both in her professional life and also in her community. Cash Harvey is a registered operating room nurse and a proud mother of three. Her oldest son is actively serving in the United States Air Force, while her two younger daughters keep her life full of joy and energy. After navigating the challenges of divorce and stepping into a new chapter of life, Cash continues to pursue excellence with unwavering determination. She is currently enrolled in a dual master's program to become a family nurse practitioner and a mental health practitioner. On top of that, she remains deeply committed to her beloved sorority, Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, where she lives out her passion for service and her mission to uplift Black women in her community. Cash Harvey's story is one of resilience, balance, and purpose. She reminds us that even in the midst of transition, we can thrive, rise, and pour back into others. So let's welcome her to the show, Cash Harvey. And if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, yeah, I thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I've never done a podcast before, but I wanted to try something new, and I trust you and I value your conversation and our time together. So thanks for having me. So a little about myself. I am 42. I'm currently a operating room nurse. I have three children, a 20-year-old son that's active duty Air Force, and two daughters, one 9 and a 5-year-old. I've been a nurse going on almost 7 years now, 6.5 years, and just have loved it. Prior to that, I was a dental assistant for 15 years. So I've always worked in healthcare. My passion is being an advocate for my community. My niche community are us, Black women. I love to support us, see us grow, and really get the information that we need about preventative healthcare and otherwise mental health positivity and to the people that need it, our community. So that's what I'm working on now. Aside from also being a Sigma Gamma Rho sorority, I love being a part of my community.
Oh my goodness, I love it. Now, how did you switch from dental to medical? It's not a big leap, but what made you switch from going from dental to nursing?
Well, so I was actually in nursing school first. I was in nursing school in college at Kent State University, and my dad passed away from colon cancer. And when that happens, I dropped out of school. The mental toll and anguish, and he was also financially and supporting me in so many ways in my life at the time. So I dropped out of school, intending to go back, but sometimes life happens. And I became pregnant with my son and was a single mother. So when you have to do something to maintain a life, I became a dental assistant. That was a pretty quick degree plan to accomplish, and it was made reasonable, income at the time. But so I did that, and then I wanted to get back to what I know my dad would have wanted to see me at, and my first goals and dreams of becoming a nurse. So I have always wanted to be a nurse. I just was delayed but not denied in my time
There you
frame.
go. I love that because the resilience it shows. It's like, okay, delayed, but not denied. Your words are powerful because it is like, okay, I had to do this, but I'm going to come back to that. And many times people really just kind of go off to the side and don't really do what they truly, truly want to do. So to me, that is bold, it is big, and it shows your determination of who you are as a woman. So
Well,
congratulations on
thank you.
that. But you have other things that are coming up that you are still doing. You want to talk about those?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, what I feel like is my passion, and when I realize part of what my calling, my passion, my internal force is to be out with my community and uplift and inspire women, Black women specifically. And so, in order to do that, I had the realization I have to increase my scope of practice and my education. So that's why I'm becoming a family nurse practitioner and a dual mental health practitioner in the next few years. So I have a year left, maybe a year and a half of the program for both, and then continue on connecting. Currently, even with the our sorority, with the sorority Sigma Gamma Rho, I'm doing a community event next month for breast cancer awareness. Yeah, October 18th. So getting these community events and these involved, my goal, my passion is to connect the providers that I trust, that look like us, that
Mhm.
have our stories of resilience and understand where we're coming from with the community that needs to hear that vital information. So for me, in order to accomplish that, I know that I have to be at a higher level of scope of practice and education.
I love that. Can you tell us where that's going to be so that people can come get the
Yeah,
information?
absolutely. Yeah, it's October 18th. It's going to be at Memorial Hermann Cypress and Memorial Hermann Cypress Breast Center. We can provide a flyer and a link at, get together for that. But women can register over 40. They'll log your health insurance. The mammogram's 99% time free, but it's a great way for prevention. I know breast cancer is scary. It can be. Cancer all over is scary, but one of the biggest caveats with cancer is prevention. Knowing what your numbers are, knowing having these scans done timely, understanding what the recommendations are, and keeping up on it. And as women over 40, we are busy. A lot of
Yes.
us careers, our life. So my passion is providing a avenue, a way for women to say, okay, hey, listen, I have this event. We make it fun. We're doing some door prizes ideally and just having a lot of fun with it and be able to, get you to get on schedule with these preventions. Cause, I myself haven't had a moment with breast cancer, just a biopsy and Lord, grateful that everything is okay. But we have to get these scans, prevention, prevention, prevention. So that's why I want to create these moments for women to come together and do it together.
And this is so important. And, as somebody whose mother has a lot of times, we put our health on the back shelf and say, well, I'll get
Yes.
to it. And unfortunately, when we could have prevented something or seen something in early stages, we could have prevented a lot. So I love that you're having this event. It is so important. And so we'll make sure everyone that information is in the notes so that you'll have a
Yes.
flyer and the information. How does your personal life and role as a parent influence the way that you treat your patients?
Oh, excellent. Well, I feel like I'm nurturing, and most nurses, a part of who we are compassionate, nurturing people. So just the way I care for my patients, and, is how I care for my children. And also, advocating for them and standing up for them. As a parent, we're our kids' biggest advocate, and we want to make sure that they're getting age appropriate information and things that they understand. So one of the biggest things as an operating room nurse that I do is I want to know that you understand what you're getting yourself into. I want to know that you understand the surgery, you consent to the surgery and all the things that are happening to you. And then while you're asleep, I'm the silent advocate because typically most folks don't actually remember your operating room nurse.
That
You'll
is
remember the nurse that you woke up with, the nurse that you talked to before you went in the surgery. But because you're under medication, when we see you, the majority of time that I'm with my patients, they don't quite honestly remember me. So I like to consider myself this, the secret silent advocate. I protected you, I patted you, I positioned you, I took care of you and cleaned you and made sure you were okay and responded if you weren't. For hours and you never knew. So sometimes I think that's how we are as parents, right? Even with the 20-year-old, that is my son is different parenting than obviously my 9 and 5-year-old. But sometimes just the things that I've already instilled in him and silently, promoted within him and given him the space to grow. Such a phenomenal young man. So I see like, okay, there was parenting that was there that's just in the background. I don't have to be front stage for you to be okay and shine. So.
And I like that you said that because many times we go into surgery and, when they ask you, what is your name? What is your date of birth? And because they're ensuring that you are going to be operated on the right limb or whatever it may be. And you're right, we don't remember the operating room nurse and the things that the nurse would be doing to ensure that we have the best outcome ever. So let's talk about it a little bit inside the operating room. What is the most surprising thing that people, well, we just talked about what they don't realize, you covered that, but how do you prepare yourself mentally for stepping into surgery? So you can differentiate between the different surgeries, but what would be your hardest surgery and how do you prepare yourself?
Well, for me personally, I enjoy taking moments of silence in the morning. I meditate and pray to start my day. Typically is ideally for me because we start our day fairly early. Sometimes I have to be at the hospital at 6 a.m. Excited to be there. So so we start pretty early. But as far as preparing the operating room, aside from the regular technical things, I play music and I also say a prayer in my OR before we get started. I believe in creating a spot positivity space and having positive energy in the room before anything is even happening. Like we're generating positivity and just a good aura. Things are going to go well today. And if they're not, I'm going to handle it. So I play music. I get going. I talk to my coworkers. Good morning. Good morning. We're excited to be there. And we start setting up for the room. So as typically an hour before the start time of the surgery, I'm in the OR checking all of the equipment. I want to make sure everything is running, functioning. I'm making sure everything is clean. We're checking all the instruments to make sure they're clean, making sure my staff is there ready. That we know the surgical plan for the doctor. We're anticipating the needs of the surgery. I'm researching you, the patient. I want to know what your last labs were. If you have any issues, I'm anticipating any obstacles for the surgery and resolving them. If my equipment isn't working, I'm resolving it. If it's too hot in the room because the temperature matters, I'm calling maintenance. This is all happening behind the scenes an hour before the surgery even starts. If my instruments aren't clean or if I have an issue with integrity of some of the packaging, I send it back and get new packaging, but we're looking at every item I open. We ensure that it's clean, it's not expired, it's intact. All the instruments are sterile. And there's ways that we check that with the monitoring systems and things like that. So doing all of that stuff, making sure the entire team is in place. And then I go talk to my patient probably about 5 minutes before surgery rolls. And just make sure that they're okay, that they verify that they know what they're doing, that the doctor's been there and that the doctor has done their part paperwork wise, which doesn't always happen. So that's an obstacle is surgeons. Surgeons can be a blessing and an obstacle because some of the stories I'm sure folks hear surgeons getting upset is absolutely true. It happens. But for me, I let most things roll off my back. But we still maintain respect. And if get your temper lost in the moment, you can circle back and apologize. Okay.
That
We
is
take
true.
apologies too. But it's high stress. And generally speaking, everyone's goal is to have a safe patient that comes through the surgery okay. My original background, I started in open heart surgery. So I worked with heart surgeons. I did bypass surgery, heart bypass, heart valve replacements, things like that. So that's where I started. And some of those surgeons can be real spicy.
Oh, that
But
is so nice how you
you
describe that
know,
spicy. Really
yelling,
spicy.
yeah, yeah, they can yell. Sometimes they can call you a little name. They can get a little wild. But you just it's what you have to do because it's kind of the high intense environment. You're stopping someone's heart, you're fixing the heart, and then you're starting it again.
Wow.
So it's a high intense, high stress environment. So when you move through those spaces, you just stay focused and we remind yourself. If I would tell anyone, stay focused and remind yourself why you're there for the patient at the end of the day. These personal relationships, your doctors are your colleagues, they're not your boss.
Mhm.
And, we work together for the patient and the safety of the patient. So having a strong spine, speaking up, and no matter what, if you're uncomfortable, say something.
And so when you say having a strong spine and speaking up, maybe can you give us an idea of what that would be if you had to speak up, like wrong medication, or well, that's the anesthesiologist, but can you give us an idea of what that would be if you would have to speak up?
Sure. I would say because I had a moment earlier this year in January. I actually won a safety, they call it Safety Hero Award at my hospital. So I won an award for this situation. So I'll speak on it because it was publicized. So a young woman came in and she was pregnant, and there was two doctors involved. The first doctor thought the baby was an ectopic pregnancy. If you're familiar, it's when the egg has been fertilized outside of the uterus. So the egg is the baby, the egg is not viable. And so typically they'd go in and remove the baby. Sometimes your tubes and or ovary may have to come, but ideally it's just the egg that has been formed outside the uterus. But so the first doctor diagnosed her as having that. The second, they called another doctor that specializes in women's health who disagreed with the diagnosis. And she, because of other symptoms, she just wasn't having abdominal pain. She put some more together. There wasn't really bleeding. And so the woman spoke fluent Spanish. She did not speak English. And we were working with a translator as we are legally required to. Well, the translator, I do habla un poquito español.
I see.
But the translator, I try to learn Spanish as I go, but the translator was not correctly translating the situation to the patient, and was mishandling what was going on between both of the surgeons. So he was communicating to the patient that it was in fact diagnosed as an ectopic when it really wasn't. I knew enough Spanish to know that that's not what he wasn't communicating appropriately. And I halted the whole surgery. I mustered every bit of Espanol I had inside myself. And I talked to the patient, myself in Spanish, and interjected and asked her to please wait until the next day to get the surgery, reject the surgery, because us putting her under anesthetic would hurt the baby, because she was convinced she had an ectopic and she did not. The baby turned out to indeed be viable, and she went on with her pregnancy and should have, at this point, probably delivered a baby by now. But she was having a viable, successful pregnancy, moving on. Yeah, she just didn't understand. So, and she really wanted the surgery because she thought, but again, putting her under anesthetics at that early point in her pregnancy would be very risky, and perhaps she would have lost the baby.
Unbelievable. Oh my goodness. And you said poquito español, but you knew enough. And I mean, how many times does that happen? And
So that's the importance of making sure your patients understand what they're doing.
yeah,
There's all these stories, and some folks think, oh, these safety checks in the hospital are annoying. I know. When you come, how many times do they ask you your name and date of
thank
birth?
you.
How many
And
times
I'd
do they
rather
ask you
than
your
do it.
allergies? But people are people. Humans make mistakes, and there are some times when things get mistaken. You it happens. So instead of a doctor who's a great physician, can just be having a really bad day,
Mhm.
you can't rely on the fallibility of individuals. We have to keep having that's protocols, and safety checks are the standard.
So you
Yeah.
really have to be on your toes and be alert to every little thing that may occur because you don't know what's coming. It's like you can't go in there bringing your personal information, your personal information, like I got a bad day or whatever. You have to somehow get yourself together to ensure that you are the best that you can be. So how, yeah, I know you said you play music, you meditate and you pray. How do you do that if another member of the team is not there, or you see that they're having a hard time? How do you help them to come together? Because on teams, you're relying on each other and it's trust. How do you get that, manifest that in that space?
Well, great question. And it happens, right? People are people. Again, everyone, you don't know their story and their history. And so I've absolutely had that where my second hand in the room, my surgical tech or my scrub nurse, whichever that is, as the team or my CRNA is going through a hard time or the anesthesiologist, I think you just have to check them. I think vulnerability and transparency are very important when it comes to teamwork, honesty. Hey, are you okay?
Mhm.
Even if it's just in that moment, you want to vent, you want to say what you need. How can I help you work through this in this moment? Because we're here for our patients, and you're absolutely right. And when there comes to a time when even me, I was going through a divorce. It's coming up on 2 years now. I took time off. I
Mhm.
used my savings and I took 2 months, almost 2.5 months off work to reestablish a safe place for my children, to rebuild myself so that I, was better to come into play. So we have to do those self checks with ourselves too, because it's not just a job that I can come in and, not be my best or even half of my best. So, to answer your question with the teamwork and stuff, I have those conversations, those important conversations in the moment. You be observant as a nurse. We assess ourselves, we assess the room, we assess each other, and our patient. So I'm looking at you and your your disposition as well.
Mhm.
So all that. But for me, that's what I mean when I say you have the courage to have those conversations in life and in workplace too. Are you okay?
Mhm. It is so true. It is so true,
Yeah.
especially if you know somebody's wherewithal, the way that they are, the way that they communicate. You know when somebody is not themselves, but I think it is imperative that we just say, "Are you okay today?" And I love the fact that you check in, assess yourself, assess other people as they should be assessing you, because you do have this patient on the table. So, I mean, that is powerful, and how. Uh, in terms of service, because when I look at what you do, and I thank you for your service, because I know it is not easy. Most people say that for the military, but I always say it to teachers and doctors and nurses, because you are a service to the community. You are providing a service to ensure that we are going to be healthy and that we're going to be able to be viable individuals in the community to do what we do. It is so important. And when I listen to what you say, and as a patient, and if I don't agree with the doctor, I'm like, I'm not having that. Now, to advocate for myself. Could you tell a little bit about why it's important for patients also to advocate for themselves?
Oh, absolutely, because you know yourself and you know a feeling. And when you can't explain it, this feels different. As much book science as we are not you. And you need to hear it. And leaning into the conversation of women's health for sure, because a lot of times, which is one of my, subcategory passions is women's health, because it's hard out here, especially in Texas,
Mhm.
when it feels very much like the government is not working towards your comprehensive health and care. So advocating for yourself, and no, this bleeding is abnormal. It's increased. I know the pain is not okay. Some of the more complex conditions in women's health, like endometriosis or PCOS, are so hard to diagnose. A lot of times because you go to certain practitioners that don't listen, and you're like, no, this really hurts. It hurts too much.
Yes.
And so I think having the consistency of finding the right practitioner. It's okay to fire your women's health practitioner if they're not listening to you, and say, okay, I'm going to go to somewhere that I can really explain my conditions and that they're going to listen. Sometimes even there's research and understanding that going to practitioners that look like us can better serve that community, you know?
I need to go back, when you talked about endometriosis, explain what that is for the viewers a little bit. So,
So, from my understanding, endometriosis is when tissue that's typically inside the uterus spreads outside the uterus. You could see it when you do laparoscopic surgery. Sometimes it's just discolored tissue that you see, and it grows outside of the body. And so what happens when you have that, the tissue still cramps. And
Mm,
so these women will have immense pain or on their periods in their abdomen, or pain with sex, or just it can be, even this tissue can be found on the diaphragm at times, or painful constipation or diarrhea because the tissue is in on their intestines and different parts inside of their body. So um, it's terrible. It can obviously create awful side effects as far as childbirth and extended bleeding, abnormal bleeding, and things like that. And PCOS is a more of a hormonal issue as well. PCOS, yeah.
PCOS.
Um, Mind you, I'm not an expert. So, from my novice standpoint as a nurse, also really difficult. You can have hair growth and other hormonal malfunctions as well. But because isn't as clean cut, and also, quite frankly, as there isn't as much money and research poured into women's health, there aren't as many straight lines to diagnosing. And sometimes these women can just think, hey, this amount of pain from during my period is normal. Or a lot of times, I think for us, we just deal with things.
Yes, yes. And just keep going
I'm just
along.
gonna, yeah, yeah,
Oh, oh
yeah.
my goodness.
So it's difficult to diagnose.
I think about that a lot of times, that I don't know how everybody was raised, but in terms of, women tend to take care of themselves last, and we take care of everybody else, and then we'll get around to our own health. And
Yeah.
how do we change that? How do we help women to see that, you know what, you cannot, you have to fill the jug first and to overflow, and then we can give to other people. But if we're constantly giving out, we have nothing for ourselves. And then we're wondering why we're tired, we're always fatigued, we don't feel well. And when we feel that way, it is like, we're not at our best. We're not at our best with our families, our jobs, and most importantly, ourselves. And so,
Yeah.
I'm wondering, what is it that you can tell us on some of the things that we might be able to do? I know it's very general, but I mean, just any advice that
No,
you
that's
can give
common though. I mean, guilty. I am absolutely guilty of having not taking care of myself, having spread myself way too thin, overcommit, over criticize, and not see the beauty in the things that I was already doing, and pushing myself past, or better yet, not, uh, you know, congratulating myself and celebrating the wins. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, that was great. I did that, but what's next?
But
Like,
I,
piling on more for each other, not taking care of yourself. So I learned that lesson. And when we see, how it affects us and the negative impact of I'm tired. I'm overeating. For me, it was my blood pressure was high. I was on blood pressure medication post COVID, being a pregnant nurse in the hospital for COVID, so it was a lot. So I've been there. And I think what we have to do is create boundaries and stick to them, have solid self-care routines, and recognizing that sleep and relaxation aren't optional. It's not like, oh, well, I'll get it if I no, it's required.
yeah,
It's a requirement.
it is so
I
true.
don't I will be taking care of myself, whatever self-care looks like for you. If it's just your nails done or just taking a minute to meditate and sit outside. I like to wake up before my house is up. The quiet times of the early morning for me. Because I have to be to work early anyway. So if it's walking or working out or just sitting in silence, that helps. But just having boundaries in place, I had to learn that. What is a boundary? A boundary is to protect myself.
That's right.
I know what my needs are. So if I'm not social and I'm not available, I'm not available. No is the complete sentence. I had
That's
to
right.
learn that.
And I think sometimes it's hard to learn. It's like so
Hmm.
ingrained. And an example I can give to that is, my husband and I took a trip, and we were 25 days without a cell phone. We went all the way to Australia and everything. But
Oh,
what
that sounds amazing.
it was amazing. But what I learned from that first of all, I wasn't reaching for the phone. It's like, no, we're not going to do that. We just said to our family, hey, we're in New Zealand, wherever we are right now. However, what I had taught people that they would respond, they would send out a message and I didn't respond because I had no cell phone. I had nothing. And so they were like, are you okay? Is this still your number? And, I let everybody know once I got back, but I had always, if you text me, I'm immediately text you back because we teach people how to treat us. And it was like the most amazing thing of not having social media, internet, Facebook, email, and even a phone call. Now we had emergency numbers, but it changed my life. I don't reach for that phone. It is not that important to me anymore because it's more important that I go to sleep, have different stages of sleep, because I am not a young woman. And it's like, I need 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep to be able to function. And I wasn't getting it because I was so busy doing. So, I mean, you can speak to that however you want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love to check out. For me, it's imperative. In fact, my birthday is coming up, and well, for my birthday is 2 days of I'm going to check into a really nice hotel and not be bothered.
I love it. Now
Just,
that's
you know what I
awesome.
mean? And some years I'm celebrating and I'm out with friends and I may go to have a dinner as well, but for the actual day and time of my birthday, y'all will be okay for 48
Yes.
hours.
Yes.
I'm going to go and do some self-reflection, take my phone off, no social media, reading some books I've been meaning to read, and journaling that, stuff, that mental catch up and reset and reflection, I think are important, and needed, just valuable. They're required for me at this point in my life. It's a requirement. And when you have those moments, it's so amazing to turn your phone off and not be involved. I'm an older millennial, so I know what it was like before cell phones. I didn't have a cell phone my whole life. So
Uh,
we didn't have them.
that's
So I
true.
appreciate in social media. I wasn't, I was the Facebook when college came around. So I appreciate the time and to not have that. So it's so important. So
So are
important,
you hearing
valuable.
that, ladies? Are you hearing that you need to take time off? You need to put it aside and put you first is what we're saying. And so,
Yeah, take from the saucer on the cup the overfill and not from the
oh,
cup, right? I'm giving you from my saucer. And sometimes even being in a sorority where there's so many events and there's so many women and personalities, I love my sorors. And also, I need a minute. And that's
yes.
okay too. Because in order for me to be the best version of myself, I have to take care of myself and have to honor my boundaries. And when I honor my boundaries and do what I say I'm going to do to myself, it has built my self-esteem back up, right? Like, because I am dedicated to myself and I know that. And that's okay. My kids are my world and they are a world in my universe. But I have other worlds that are also floating that I care about and value. So, and I myself am my whole universe, right? So you have to, you know, take that time for yourself as needed.
Well, I know we are running down in time right now, but
Oh, yes.
I do have some other questions. If and these are like lessons or mostly advice. And what lessons from nursing do you carry in your everyday life? And if someone is considering becoming an OR nurse, what's the one thing you wish you had known before starting? I'll start with those and I only have one question after that.
Okay. The lessons I take on in nursing is compassion. I think nowadays too, not just emotional intelligence, but having emotional compassion for people. Everyone isn't where you are. Some folks are just taking their time getting there, right? So grace and compassion. And sometimes you can look at your patients and be like, why don't you just take your medication? Or why don't you just follow do what you're supposed to do. If you're diabetic, don't eat some, what I mean? You have high cholesterol,
Yeah,
follow the plan,
yes.
right? But in nursing, you have to have compassion for others and emotional compassion. You have compassion. It's not as easy as it thinks. We tell you what you think, but in your life, there are obstacles that I don't see and that I'm not experiencing. And you have a whole entire reason and history and background of why you're doing things. I want to be able to meet you where you are and hopefully reinforce why we can get there someplace new together. But yes. And what would I tell someone that want to be operating nurse? Stay strong, baby. Smile through it. Remember that you are there for your patients, and ultimately, the surgeons are your colleagues, not your boss. A
Mm,
doctor is puts his pants on, her pants on, one leg at a time. I respect your experience and education, but also we're going to be respectful to each other. And when you set that standard and tone, play with someone else. Okay.
yes.
So they know that, and then they will be respectful to you. So I just, grow in that way. And that was a little tough for me at first, but then once I again established that boundary, uh, people will treat you how you let them, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Wow. Great answers. What's the biggest life lesson nursing has taught you?
Hmm. How short life is and
Mm,
unpredictable.
mm,
Life is short.
it is.
One day we can be okay, and the next day everything changes.
Right.
So
Right. Wow.
and be in the presence, be grateful. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for being here in this day and just remembering that life is short.
It
It
is.
comes fast at times. So
It does.
gratitude for every day and every moment.
I love that. And is there anything else you want to add? It doesn't matter what it is. Whatever it is, you have the floor. I have one more question.
That's what I'm grateful for the interview. I challenged myself to try something new for my birthday, and I've never been on a podcast, so I can encourage my sisters out there to try something new sometimes. It's great, and I just would love continuing to want to see us in our community rise up because we are queens, baby. We are the standard. We are the example. And I love that for us. I love y'all. I'm always rooting for us, and I continue to support my community. So
And
thank
Isha,
you for having me and
you
giving
are
me a platform and a moment.
you are so welcome because when I met you and I listened to you and you had so much energy and I was like, people need to hear your story. And so I'm calling this part one because there should be a part two to this because you have so much knowledge, so much compassion, and so much to say about women's health. And I think it's imperative that women hear it, and especially Black women hear it. It doesn't matter, it doesn't mean that we don't care about all women, but Black women, it is important for us to get this. And I would just ask you when you have the time, if you will come back.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I hear that. And I know some folks can get in their feelings a little bit as women of color or, oh, well, I'm this. Do you care about me? I absolutely do. Right. I think to that conversation, I will say when we talk about how we are disproportionately affected and how we die, it's urgent. And as much as we want to talk about all the houses that are going on, this house is currently on fire.
Yes.
And as much as I want to care about your landscape, and I think that is it, what is in my passion and in my heart, and intrinsically, what I want to do is help put out the fire on this
Mhm.
house. So there are plenty of providers, okay, that are available and are actively working on the landscape of the other house. They're planting trees and
Oh,
flowers and all of that, but our house is on fire.
yes, it
we
is.
we can't even get to landscape yet
Oh,
because we're dying, right? So um I respectfully stand 10 toes down for my Black women, and that is what it is. I'm rooting for you, and our niche population needs attention and support.
for sure. Cash
Yeah,
Harvey, thank you so much for being on Passion and Purpose of Pamela. We respect
thank
you.
you for having me.
We're just so pleased you have come on here.
Thank you. I'm so pleased. Ever since I met you, it's been a pleasure. So thank you for having me. You have
Thank
excellent
you.
energy yourself. I love that you have this podcast. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us today on Passion and Purpose. It's been wonderful to connect with you, and I hope you found our conversation as enlightening and inspiring as I have. A huge thanks to our guests who contributed to the discussion and shared their experiences and insights. Your stories are the heartbeat of this podcast, and it's a joy to explore our passions and purpose together. I'm Pamela, reminding you to live with passion and purpose. Until next time, take care and keep reaching for your dreams.